I stood frozen in the doorway, watching as Emily carefully folded a lacy red dress and placed it inside her suitcase. Her long, slender fingers smoothed the fabric, a small, almost secretive smile playing on her lips. My stomach twisted. That wasn't a dress she wore to business meetings. It was one she reserved for special nights, nights meant only for us. "You're really going through with this?" My voice came out hoarse, barely above a whisper. Emily didn't even flinch. She tucked a strand of her honey-blonde hair behind her ear, still avoiding my gaze. "Michael, we've been over this. It's just a work trip. Ryan needs me there." Ryan. The name alone made my blood simmer. Ryan Carter, her boss. Wealthy, charming, single. A man who never bothered hiding the way his eyes lingered on my wife when he thought I wasn't watching. "Ryan doesn't need you, Emily," I said, stepping into the room. "He wants you." She sighed, finally meeting my eyes. "You're overreacting." "Am I?" I gestured toward the suitcase, the lingerie, the perfume bottle she had tucked inside. "This doesn't look like business to me." Emily pressed her lips together, a flicker of something, guilt, hesitation, flashing across her face. But just as quickly, it was gone. "You have to trust me," she said, her voice softer now. "This is important for my career." I scoffed. "Your career? Or your weekend with him?" Silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. I wanted her to deny it, to fight for us, to reassure me that I was just being paranoid. But she didn't. Instead, she closed the suitcase with a quiet click, sealing more than just her clothes inside. "I have to do this," she finally said. "Ryan is counting on me." A bitter laugh escaped my throat. "I bet he is." Emily exhaled sharply, frustration flickering in her eyes. "Michael, please. Don't make this harder than it has to be." Something inside me cracked. "I'm not the one making this hard, Emily. You are." She hesitated, as if considering her next words carefully. Then, she reached out, fingers brushing against mine. For a second it felt like the old us, before the doubts, before Ryan, before all of this. But the moment shattered as quickly as it came. She pulled back, shaking her head. "I'll be back Sunday night." Sunday night. After 2 days in a hotel room with him. I clenched my fists to keep my emotions in check. "And what do you expect, Emily? That I'll be here waiting for you with open arms." She swallowed hard, but said nothing. That night, as we lay in bed, she turned away from me. The space between us felt like miles. The warmth of her body was there, but the warmth of her heart was already gone. I stared at the ceiling, knowing this weekend would change everything. And the worst part? So did she. Morning arrived with a suffocating weight pressing against my chest. Sunlight streamed through the curtains, but the warmth didn't reach me. Instead, I watched in silent agony as Emily, my wife, the woman I had loved, trusted, and built a life with, stood before the mirror, applying her lipstick with meticulous precision. That shade of red. I knew it well. It wasn't the color of boardroom meetings or corporate strategy sessions. It was the color she wore on nights meant to seduce, to intoxicate, to conquer. "Are you sure this is what you want?" My voice came out calmer than I felt, masking the storm raging inside me. Emily met my eyes in the mirror, pausing for a brief second. "Michael, I've told you already. This is just work." I exhaled slowly, forcing down the bitter words clawing their way up my throat. "Right. Just work." She turned, smoothing out the sleek black dress hugging her figure. "I'll call you when I land." I nodded, though we both knew that call would never come. Downstairs, her suitcase sat near the door, a tangible symbol of everything crumbling between us. She lifted it effortlessly, walking toward the exit without hesitation. My chest tightened. "Emily," I called. She stopped, hand gripping the doorknob. "Do you still love me?" Her breath hitched, so slight, so fleeting, but I caught it. She didn't turn around. "Of course I do," she whispered, then stepped outside. I stood motionless as the sound of the car engine rumbled to life. Gravel crunched under tires. And then, silence. She was gone. Hours of agony. Time moved sluggishly. I paced the house like a ghost, checking my phone more times than I cared to admit. No messages. No updates. Nothing. The unease that had been gnawing at me for weeks had finally settled in, cold and undeniable. I should have done something sooner. Should have demanded answers, fought harder, made her choose between our marriage and whatever this thing with Ryan had become. Instead, I had let her walk away. By evening, the quiet had become unbearable. Grabbing my phone, I hesitated before tapping into her social media. Nothing new. No pictures, no check-ins, no traces of her trip. Then an email notification popped up. At first, I nearly dismissed it as spam, but my eyes locked onto two words that sent my pulse skyrocketing. Hotel reservation. I clicked on it, my fingers trembling. Confirmation details. Luxury suite. King-sized bed. 2 guests. My stomach dropped. The truth was no longer a suspicion, it was undeniable proof. I clenched my jaw so tightly it hurt. She hadn't even bothered booking separate rooms. No lies about professionalism. No excuses about necessity. She had planned this all along. The weight of betrayal crushed me. I could have swallowed a lie, could have let myself believe she was simply naive, but this was deliberate. My hands curled into fists as rage replaced the hurt. If she thought I'd sit at home like some blind, trusting fool while she gave herself to another man, she was wrong. I wasn't going to wait. I was going to see it for myself. The road to betrayal. The drive felt endless, headlights slicing through the night as my thoughts spiraled. Images of Emily, of her pressed against Ryan, of her laughing at his jokes, of her lips, still stained with that red lipstick, meeting his, flashed through my mind. I tightened my grip on the wheel, trying to silence the torment in my head. When I finally reached the hotel, it loomed over me like a monument to my own humiliation. The grand entrance, the golden lights, the valet assisting high-profile guests, it all screamed luxury and secrecy, a place where affairs thrived in whispered promises and stolen touches. I stepped out of my car, my pulse hammering, my breath uneven. "Good evening, sir. Welcome to the Sterling Hotel," the receptionist greeted me with a polite smile. I forced myself to stay composed. "I need to speak with Emily Carter," I said, using the last name she had checked in under. The woman hesitated. "I'm sorry, but we can't disclose guest information." Of course. That would have been too easy. I exhaled sharply, stepping back as my gaze scanned the elegant bar near the entrance. And then I saw them. The kiss that broke me. Emily sat in a secluded booth, a glass of wine in her hand. The dim lighting cast a soft glow on her, making her look almost ethereal. She smiled at something Ryan said, her head tilting back slightly as she laughed, a laugh I hadn't heard in months. But it wasn't just the laugh. It was the way she leaned in when he spoke, the way her fingers brushed against his wrist. It was the unspoken intimacy that sent a blade straight through my chest. Ryan smirked, whispering something in her ear. She bit her lip, a flicker of hesitation crossing her face. For a second I thought, hoped, she might pull away. She didn't. Instead, she turned her head slightly, meeting his lips in a slow, lingering kiss. The world around me blurred. The sounds of clinking glasses, distant conversations, and soft jazz music faded into nothing. There it was, the confirmation, the undeniable proof that I had lost her. I should have confronted them, should have stormed over, thrown accusations, demanded explanations. But what was there to say? She had already made her choice. I stood there, frozen as my wife, my Emily, pressed her lips against Ryan's. Every second felt like an eternity, my stomach twisting in a violent knot. I had come here searching for the truth, and now it stood before me, raw and undeniable. My hands clenched into fists, nails digging into my palms as I fought the urge to storm over and rip him away from her. But would that even change anything? Would it erase the fact that she had chosen him, not just in this moment, but the moment she packed her bag and walked out our front door? The kiss lingered. It wasn't just a stolen moment of weakness. It was deliberate, deep, filled with a passion I hadn't seen from her in months. When they finally pulled apart, her smile said everything. She wasn't hesitating. She wasn't regretting. She was exactly where she wanted to be. My breath came in short, uneven gasps as rage boiled beneath my skin. I had to move, had to leave before I did something reckless. Turning on my heel, I pushed through the crowd, my mind spinning as I headed toward the hotel's exit. But then I stopped. No. I couldn't just leave. I wouldn't just leave. Emily had shattered everything we built together without a second thought. She had betrayed me, humiliated me. And she didn't even know I was here to witness it. She thought she could get away with this. She was wrong. A change in plans. Instead of heading home, I walked up to the front desk. "Sir, how can I assist you?" the receptionist asked with a polite smile. I glanced over my shoulder, catching sight of Emily and Ryan as they stood from their table, laughing like two lovers lost in their own world. My stomach twisted, but I forced my expression to remain neutral. "I need a suite for the night," I said, sliding my credit card across the counter. The receptionist tapped at her keyboard. "Of course, sir. Would you prefer one as close as possible to Ryan Carter's?" I interrupted, keeping my voice casual. The receptionist hesitated, her professional smile faltering. "I'm afraid I can't disclose guest information." I leaned in slightly. "Look, I just saw my wife walk in here with another man. I don't need details. Just book me a room nearby." Her expression softened with understanding. A few keystrokes later, she nodded. "We have a suite 2 doors down from Mr. Carter's. Will that work?" "Perfect." She handed me the keycard, and I took it without another word. My heart pounded as I walked toward the elevator, my mind racing with possibilities. I had no idea what I was going to do next. But one thing was certain. I wasn't leaving until Emily knew exactly what she had done. The slow descent. The hallway stretched before me, eerily quiet, the plush carpet muffling my steps as I approached their room. I stopped in front of their door, my pulse hammering so loudly I swore they could hear it from the other side. What was I expecting? That she'd suddenly feel guilty and run back to me? That she'd regret everything and beg for forgiveness? No. Emily wasn't that woman anymore. I clenched my jaw, taking a step back. I needed a plan. A confrontation? A scene? Would that even satisfy the storm inside me? Then the door opened. I barely had time to react before Emily stepped into the hallway, her back to me as she adjusted the strap of her dress. And then she turned. Her eyes met mine. The color drained from her face. "Michael." I said nothing. For the first time since this nightmare began, she was the one caught off guard. She was the one struggling for words. She swallowed hard, glancing around as if hoping this was some kind of sick dream. What are you doing here?" I let the silence stretch between us, savoring the fear flickering in her eyes. Finally I spoke. "I should be asking you the same thing." Her lips parted, but nothing came out. She knew she couldn't lie. Not this time. "How long?" I asked, my voice eerily calm. Emily's hands trembled as she clutched her purse. "Michael, How long?" I repeated, sharper this time. She exhaled shakily, looking down. "A few months," she admitted, barely above a whisper. A bitter laugh escaped me. Months. I had suspected. I had felt it. But hearing her say it out loud hit harder than I could have imagined. I took a step forward, watching her shrink back slightly. "So this was never about work, was it?" She shook her head, tears brimming in her eyes. "It started that way. I swear. But then..." She trailed off, biting her lip. "But then you chose him," I finished for her. A single tear slipped down her cheek. "I never meant to hurt you," I scoffed. "Right. Because packing a bag, booking a hotel, and sleeping with your boss was all just a big accident." Her breath hitched. "Michael, please." The door behind her suddenly opened. Ryan. He stood there, shirt unbuttoned, a smug expression crossing his face the moment he saw me. Ah, he said, leaning against the doorframe. So, the husband finally shows up. Rage exploded inside me. You son of a... I lunged, grabbing him by the collar, slamming him against the doorframe. Ryan's smirk faltered, his hands going up defensively. Whoa, calm down, he said, though I could hear the nervous edge in his voice. Calm down, I hissed. You think I'm just going to stand here and let you? Michael, stop. Emily's voice cut through the tension, her hands gripping my arm. Please, just stop. I turned to her, searching her face for any sign of regret. Instead, all I saw was fear. Not for me. For him. Something inside me shattered. I let go, shoving Ryan backward before stepping away. You made your choice, Emily, I said, my voice hollow. And now, so will I. She looked at me, confused. What do you mean? I took one last glance at the woman I had once loved more than anything. The woman who had broken me beyond repair. You'll find out soon enough. And with that, I walked away. I walked out of that hotel with my heart pounding like a war drum. My fists remained clenched, my breathing shallow. Emily's betrayal burned inside me, but I refused to let it consume me. No. I wouldn't let her or Ryan have that power. This wasn't over. Not yet. The plan begins. By the time I reached my car, a plan had already begun forming in my mind. Emily had made her choice, and now I would make mine. I had spent years building a life with her, giving her love, loyalty, and everything she ever wanted. And she had thrown it all away for a cheap affair with her boss. Well, I wasn't leaving empty-handed. She wanted to start fresh with Ryan? Fine. But I would make sure she did it with nothing. Pulling out my phone, I made a call. Michael. My lawyer, Daniel, answered groggily. Sorry for the late call, I said, my voice eerily calm. But I need you to initiate divorce proceedings first thing in the morning. There was a pause. Michael, is everything okay? I stared at the hotel entrance, watching as Emily nervously peered outside, probably checking to see if I was still there. No, I said. But it will be. Stripping her bare. The next morning, I wasted no time. Daniel drafted the divorce papers with clear terms. Emily would get nothing. No house. No savings. No shared assets. Everything we owned was in my name. She had contributed nothing financially, and I had made sure of that over the years, keeping our legal standing crystal clear. It wasn't about revenge. It was about consequences. She had made her bed. Now she could lie in it with Ryan. The shock. By evening, I received a text from Emily. We need to talk. Please. I ignored it. Then another. Michael, don't do this. Let's talk. I smirked. Now she wanted to talk? Now she wanted to explain? Too late. The real fun began when I delivered the papers to her workplace. I walked straight into Ryan's office, a folder in hand. His assistant tried to stop me, but the look on my face must have been enough to send a warning. I pushed open his office door without knocking. Ryan sat at his desk, Emily beside him. They looked up in shock as I strolled in. Michael. Emily stood, her face pale. I ignored her and placed the folder on Ryan's desk. Since you wanted my wife so badly, I figured you'd want to see what comes with her. Ryan raised an eyebrow, opening the folder. His smirk faltered as he scanned the contents. What the hell is this? He muttered. Divorce papers, I said, crossing my arms. Emily leaves with nothing. But that's not all. I turned to Emily, my expression cold. I went through our finances today. Remember that credit card you've been using for your business trips? Turns out, those luxury hotels and fancy dinners? They were all charged under my account. Her face drained of color. Michael, I pulled out another document. This is proof that you've been spending my money on your little affair. Which, by the way, is considered marital fraud in our state. Ryan shifted uncomfortably. Wait a minute. I cut him off. That means if I really wanted to, I could sue Emily for every single cent and drag you into court as well. But don't worry, I won't. I'd rather let you two enjoy the mess you created. Emily's lips trembled. Michael, please. You don't have to do this. I let out a humorless chuckle. You didn't have to cheat. You didn't have to lie. You didn't have to humiliate me. But you did. Ryan stood up, glaring at me. All right, man. You've made your point. I turned to him, smiling coldly. Oh, I'm not done. I pulled out one final document and slid it across the desk. Ryan picked it up, and as he read, his face turned a sickly shade of gray. This is a complaint letter to the company board? He stammered. I nodded. Turns out, having an affair with a subordinate violates company policy. A few HR reports, some well-placed emails, and guess what? I leaned in. You're fired. Emily gasped. Michael. And since I know how much Emily loves a man with money, I continued, my tone dripping with mock sympathy, I figured she should know that your little kingdom is crumbling. Ryan clenched his jaw. You son of a... Careful, I warned. You've already lost your job. Don't lose your dignity too. The final goodbye. I turned to Emily one last time. I loved you, I said simply. And you threw it away. Tears streamed down her face. Michael, I made a mistake. No, I cut her off. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk. You made choices. Repeatedly. Her body shook with silent sobs. Can we fix this? I stared at her, truly seeing her for the first time. And I felt nothing. No, Emily. We can't. I turned around and walked away, leaving her standing there, broken. And for the first time in a long time, I felt free.